Hello, everybody. Just a heads up. We actually wanted to interview Ganesh from the Long Direction. And
we have invited him. Why are you on the screen, Ganesh?
Yeah, we're waiting for him to come on board. Aunties being aunties couldn't record the Zoom interview.
Oh, for live.
So
Yes.
we tried FB also did not.
Hey! Okay, finally. So how about both of? So right now I'm Ganesh, also known as the Long Direction.
Is it recording?
Other side of the world, we have Norah on the left, Susie on the right. In Singapore, they're known as the two traveling aunties.
Yes.
So both of us.
Wait, Ganesh, can you show a bit of your neck? If not, your head will be floating.
Okay.
Hey, yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. So. Okay.
Yeah, I think from
So today.
my ear.
Oh.
Hi everyone. So today I'll just do an intro again. My name is Ganesh and I'm also known as the Long Direction. Opposite me is Norah on the left, Susie on the right, and they are both known as the two traveling aunties. So the three of us basically like traveling, and we did different modes of traveling. I did backpacking for 9 months, and they did traveling in camper van across Europe and North Africa for more than 2 years. So I don't want to hog the mic too much. I'll let them do some of the intro too. So Norah and Susie, how are you guys?
Okay, we're good. Trying to sort out the earpiece so it's better. Think excellent now.
Yeah, can you hear us good?
It's good morning from Singapore and good evening from Canada.
Montreal, yeah.
Okay, let me have the list of questions.
Yeah, so we just got back to Singapore on last September 20th from Germany because the VTL lanes were open, Singapore and Germany. And then we've been hibernating in Singapore after our 2 years trip in Europe, North Africa, Turkey. All around, and for 2 years and 10 days we traveled to 27 countries over 3 continents. The first 1 year was sort of like planned, but pandemic happened, so we had to extend it to 2 years. And I think that's what we have in common with Ganesh from the Long Direction. It's like you can plan as much as you want, but you know, somebody else has a bigger plan for you.
So before we move on, let's just tell the audience, how did you guys travel exactly?
So we are in our 50s. We have done our bit on, those package tours. I did a lot of backpacking in my younger days. So we traveled in a motorhome. Or some knows as camping car, camper van, RV, whatever. But in Europe, it's more known as a motorhome. It's a big van, 7 meters long, equipped with bed, toilet, bathroom, stove, kitchen, very comfortable.
Refrigerator.
A fridge, yeah. So
I think you guys did a lot of cooking and whatnot, right?
Oh
yes. It's one of the ways to save money. So you want to travel forever or for longer. The best thing is go to the local supermarket or roadside stores or farm where you pass by. You buy the freshest produce and you cook yourself. It's the cheapest way to go.
Yeah.
You stretch your dollar a long, long way.
Okay, one question for both of you. Why camper van? Why not just backpacking? Why not just take a haversack or backpack and, travel across Europe?
Very easy. I'm 50 years old. Cannot. I'm more than 50.
Okay, so like I said earlier, we are in our 50s. Like I said, in my younger days, meaning even in my 30s, right? There's a journey that I took. I was in New York. 20 kilo backpack, okay, not a problem. 20 kilo backpack. I also did some forest jungle trekking and everything. But now that 20 kilo, I can barely lift it off the ground.
I have spondylitis.
Huh?
Yeah,
No, roller suitcase is so
I can't carry
unpractical,
anything
not
heavy
practical.
because I got degeneration of my spine.
Yeah.
So anything heavy, I'll just have severe neck pain.
Yeah.
So I can't carry anything heavy.
Yeah.
So backpacking is out for me.
Yeah. So like you like to say, right? Age is just a number, right? But it's also in your knees, in your bones, your backpack.
Yeah. Just walk alone, the knee pain already. And then this one ankle pain. So no. So and also the car can drive you to places
More places
that
also.
you wouldn't be able to go ordinarily.
Yeah.
So if you're backpacking, you have to take transport to go to odd places, and it can be costly. For a car, we can drive to whichever seaside that we want. People say, oh, this castle is up in the hill. We can just go. So,
okay, so we have a question already. Someone asked when did they meet each other. We haven't met one another physically yet. It's more an online thing, and we got to know one another because Singapore media covered us quite a bit, like the Mothership article, the Travel Intern, few other Singaporean and international media covered us, and we're like, oh my god, there are people like that who are Singaporeans. I was shocked, and I think they were shocked too, right?
Yeah, because it is so nice. It's so nice and exciting to hear about other Singaporeans on the road, like long-term traveling. So when we hear about you, we watch your video, we were like, yay!
Someone like us.
And so many times we wish that we have done this younger, because then you can do more things. Like rough it up in a tent, like you right now. That part of our life has passed.
We're kind of similar in many extents, but different way of travel. But we're also very fascinated with like each other's travel. We're fascinated like who you meet, how you travel, visas, how you cross the border. All these things fascinate us. We can learn from each other in that way. So that's why we have similar or common interests.
I think the question was, when did they meet each other? Like maybe if like us, we met in Singapore in 2017, because at that time I was organizing meetups and activities for women living and working in Singapore. So Susie came down, and she was my regular at the events that I set up. So from there we become friends, law. And then
I'll give myself a brief intro, okay? My name is Ganesh. I run this Instagram, Facebook page called The Long Direction, and I traveled from Singapore to Canada without any flights. So it took me across 3 continents and an ocean. So they answered why they did it through a camper van. I'll answer now why I did backpacking and took public transportation and hitchhiked and slept on the roadside, at train stations, couch surfed. And to be very honest, that's because I was 20 when I left home for 9 months, and I had no money. I was utterly broke. I mean, I had $10,000 with me, but in the grand scheme of things, you two can vouch for me. It doesn't go very far when you're traveling with $10,000 with insurance, with expenditure,
a lot of
food, visas, transport.
The money just goes away before you even know it. So and that was the reason why I decided to backpack, travel on an extreme shoestring budget. As to why I wanted to travel from Singapore to Canada without flights, so I moved to Canada because this is where I study right now. But why did I decide to make that journey without taking flights? Whenever I take planes, there's always this thought in my mind, and that is, okay, I'm flying over these lands. It looks nice from up here, but I'm just skipping this huge swath of land. Countries, regions, even continents that I'm just flying past. There's so many stories there. There's so many things to see. There's so many things to learn. So many things to experience. That if I were to never visit these places, I never know they existed. I never know what I missed out in terms of learning, in terms of experiencing new things, in terms of meeting new people. And that was a big motivation on why I wanted to do that. And also when I was young, I watched a lot of travel shows. There was this channel called Net Geo Adventure in Singapore. I don't know if both of you know it, but it was it was a very interesting channel that concentrated a lot on extreme traveling, or how would I say, overland travel and adventure travel. So I watched this channel quite often, and one of the routes that they commonly featured was traveling from Singapore to London or London to Singapore without any overland journey.
Yeah.
And I think that route is already not very well. It's sort of known, but not many people have done it, but still people.
Yeah.
So I asked myself, like, I actually just wanted to go to London, but I asked myself, your ultimate destination is Montreal in Canada. Why just stop in London? Like, why not just push the button and, go as far as possible? So basically, that's how my trip came about. And yeah.
That's quite a feat, I must say, because even in my younger days, I backpack a lot. I've never thought of doing that. It's just so scary, the thought of hitchhiking, and I've never hitchhiked in my life.
Very brave.
It's very brave. Yeah. So
what kind of research did you do before you set off for your journey?
The honest answer is I didn't do any research.
Well, then you're surprised. You'll be surprised on your journey.
Okay, this is what I say, the folly of, not the folly of youth lah, but the bravery of youth.
I think it's a bit of both. It's both the folly, both the ignorance and the how would I say it? That ignorance and the fact that I'm very what's that word? I can't, gullible, but at the same time, I'm just I have nothing to do, so why not just do it? Sort of thing. There was no planning involved in my trip. I didn't plan much. I didn't know where I was going to be a week later. It was
but what was the general plan? You must have some kind of idea of where you want to go. I mean, other than destination is Montreal, but like what route you go, straight or go east or west or whatever, that's a basic.
In that direction.
Very rough, like Asia, like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. And then maybe Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, China. And then after that, I knew I was going to Central Asia. And then after that I could either go to Russia towards the north, I could go down south to Turkmenistan and Iran before going to Turkey, and then Europe. The thing is, I needed to get across the Atlantic, to like North America, and I didn't know where the ship was going to leave until about 6 weeks prior to actually boarding that ship. So though I knew I was going to go to Europe, I didn't know where in Europe I was supposed to be.
Right.
For me, it felt like, I think it's because both of us can agree, like you did like more than a 2-year trip. I did like a 9-month trip. Both are quite long trips. And it's almost impossible to plan day to day.
Yeah.
You would agree with me. You'll go crazy.
We have plan A, then become plan B, plan C, until plan Z, especially after COVID.
Yeah, especially
so it's like, you can have a rough plan, but usually your plan has to be flexible, be thrown out of the window, and last minute there's a plan Z that comes out, and hey, you can do, okay, let's do.
Yeah. Also, we plan what to do when, let's say, we cannot cross border or whatever, but the most consistent plan is not to panic lah.
Let's do it. Not to panic, which I'm very bad at because I actually panic. Actually, but I'm good at hiding it. Okay.
Okay.
Did you panic many times or just the one time?
I really don't know.
Like every day was a panic day.
Every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day. Certainly, every day was a new day. Every day I didn't know what I was going to do. So I think the luxury that both of us had on our times was, on our sides was time. I had 9 months, you had 2 years. So we could travel and not have a plan. Of course, if you're traveling, if you're doing a typical 2-week trip, then you have to plan it. If not, it's going to be, if not, you would just be losing out on seeing a lot of stuff, experiencing a lot of stuff. But for me, one of the reasons why I did not plan was, firstly, I was quite lazy. Secondly, it was just too long for me to plan every single thing. And I hated research on planning. And the third would be this. When you plan, right, you're only going to see things that you know exist. You're only going to meet people whom you know, like be it through mutual friends or through direct contact. You're only going to experience things that you know exist. You're only going to learn things that you want to learn. But when you go without planning, you'll just be brought to places. You can call it fate, luck, whatever.
Yes.
Then you'll experience things that you never even know existed. You'll see things that you never imagined that existed on Earth. You would meet people. You would put yourself in situations. That.
Yeah. Same with us. Like we follow the GPS, right? And then you take a wrong turn, and then you go into some countryside road that, you kind of panic. Oh my God, I lost my way. What am I going to do? But then it turned out to be the best drive ever. Because the scenery, it's just the surprise element, the suspense.
Yeah,
and the road is really more interesting than the normal highway. So you don't plan it. Usually you have lots of surprises.
I think I would say not plan lah. I say be flexible in your planning. Like you have a destination A to B, but along the way, if you find something and then it's like A plus, A plus, and then you just go, and then you might just spend days there, and you might not even reach your destination, your initial planned destination. But
I think what you're trying to say is that be flexible, right?
Be super flexible. Like if you want to travel long term, like us both, you have to be very flexible in your planning. So that also needs a little bit of planning in terms of budgeting, in terms of finance, in terms of your supplies and whatever not lah. I mean, as aunties, we need to do that lah. We no longer can take the heart attack.
Ganesh, what was your parents' reaction when you tell them you want to
travel?
Basically, like walk all the way to Canada.
So I did tell my parents that I'm traveling from Singapore to Canada without flights, and my parents' reaction was, "Oh, okay." Like, because
what does it mean without flights?
In their mind, it's just something so abstract. It just didn't register in their mind. They just couldn't grasp how much the distances were. They just thought it was like some other trip that was going on. My mom told me I thought you were going on like a normal trip. Like I didn't know that
from East Coast to Jurong to Woodlands.
those sort of trips. So that was my parents' reaction. But
what about your friends?
Yeah. What about your friends?
Friends' reaction?
Awesome, all the best, because you really need it. But then again, they understood the distances involved, but they were like, I'm pretty sure some of them thought that way. Maybe they thought otherwise, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them thought this way, and they just didn't tell me. And that was, he's going to do something crazy. He's probably not going to achieve it, but
give up halfway, something like that.
We were talking about budgeting, and so one of the questions I received is how much did you save up, and how did you manage to save up that amount for the trip? So maybe you guys can explain how both of you saved up, and then how much you guys spent for the trip.
Firstly, we have been working for all of our adult life.
We save. I have a budget in mind, which is 50,000. So we have the savings of 50,000. The plan was 1 year, so spend 20,000 on the car and 30,000, which is about 3,000 Singapore dollar each month of travel
for both of us.
For both of us, and then we got stuck in Morocco, and then after traveling for a year, we realized that actually cheaper to go on the road than go back to Singapore. We don't have to pay for water, electricity. Food is cheap. You buy one chicken, $3 can eat for 3 days. And I think we have enough budget to stretch it for another year. Because if we do another year, the car, the 20,000 don't have to buy again. So it's just 3,000 a month, which for two people is 1,500. In Singapore, 1,500 to survive is kind of like cutting it fine. So let's do it another year. And we did. So in the end, without the expenditure for the car for the next year, we spent 70,000, which is 35,000 each, which is 17,500 each for the car, for the food, for some shopping,
insurance,
for everything.
Yeah.
Everything, petrol, everything included. And we go to many places, 27 countries. So,
I mean, if
So
you
you guys
if
are
you look
traveling on
at
a camper van. So the camper
Yes.
accommodation plus transportation.
Correct.
Oh, yes.
Correct.
yes,
Yeah, everything. So for
Services.
17,500 each per year,
Yeah.
which is just slightly more than yours, but with a bit more luxury.
No.
Because the aunties need it
17 is per person or
per person per year.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think yours in the end, how much did it cost you?
So I spent for my 9-month trip $10,000 Singapore dollars, and that included everything. Okay.
Everything, yeah.
And so first of all, people are more curious as to how I saved money because I was 20 when I set out.
Yeah.
So I was in the army. Army gave me allowance, and I saved that allowance. Also, I worked part-time when I was in the army. Not really, I mean, it's not the most legal thing out there, but, you know, needed to survive, needed to save money, right? So I was a tuition teacher. And so I saved money through that too. And, you know, both were like much needed sources of income. And at the end, I saved 10,000. Originally, I budgeted for about 12,000, but then, you know, I was like, okay, fine, you know, $10,000 isn't far off, and why not just do it? You know,
So you do under,
way.
you kind of do under the budget or amount you saved.
Yeah, I was under. I saved what I saved was under the amount I wanted to save. Nonetheless, I told myself, if there's a will, there's a way. So 10,000 versus 15,000. I know there's a $5,000 deficit, but I told myself, I'm going to do it nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It is true.
Like 20 Singapore dollars a day, 25 Singapore dollars a day. And yeah, so that amounted to about less than about $900 a month.
Yeah.
You know, do the maths, you'll realize that there's a 20 to 25 Singapore dollars a day. There's still a bit of money, you know, it will add up to 700 plus a month.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I said 900, I spent $900 a month, right? And the other $150 to $200 was for things like visas, was for things like, mostly visa and sometimes corruption, bribery, stuff like that. Those things I really underestimated, bribery.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow. Did you have to bribe many times?
I'm very oblivious to this sort of stuff. So sometimes I didn't even know that I was paying a bribe.
Oh, right. Okay.
until I do like a retrospection, like
Give us an example.
For example, I was crossing a few borders, and every time I crossed the border, they told me that there's this thing called a visa fee or an entry fee or a process fee, which to me seemed reasonable because it was always like $5, $10. But when I talk to locals, you know, after the country, that's actually a scam because, you know, they're like, oh, those guys, they always ask for a bribe, and they're like, don't pay them. And I'm like, too late, I already paid.
Yeah, I mean, you know, being in Singapore with the way that we have, you know, the government that we have. I mean, bribery is like, you know, and we are.
We never face it.
We are pretty adverse to it, and I mean, I would also say like we have to sometimes come down from our high horse and saying that it's wrong, not ethical, blah blah blah. But that's how things get done in certain countries. And as a traveler, you know, like they say, do like the Romans do, right? You know, the most important thing is your safety and how you progress. What's the most amount of bribery you had to pay?
Bribery. Okay, let's group bribery and scam together. So, if you want to talk about basically. The biggest was $600.
Oh, wow, for what?
Sing or US?
I deserved it. So I was in Thailand in Koh Tao. And I was doing some diving there, and then I met this American guy who told me that he would teach me how to cycle a motorcycle. Okay,
the motorcycle one. I read about it.
I never rode a motorcycle before. Okay.
By the way, it's in your book, and we were quite fascinated by the incident of yours.
Like, okay, I'll teach you how to cycle. a motorcycle, how to ride a motorcycle. I was like, okay, like, he sounded very confident and stuff. And I was like, okay, fine, like, I mean, motorcycle is just like a bicycle, right? It's just a motorcycle.
No.
So, I rented the motorcycle and I twisted the, what's that called?
Throttle.
The
throttle.
The throttle.
Yeah.
No, before I even did that, I asked him, how do I ride a motorcycle? And he was like, just twist the throttle. I'm like, that's where the throttle is. So I twisted it. And before I could react, the motorcycle went across the street and almost ran over like a hawker on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I mean, now I know how to start the motorcycle, so it couldn't be that hard. So Koh is this really hilly and rugged island in Thailand. And the roads really go up and down, and then, here and there. And so I rode on that road, and of course, every time I went down, I just dropped the motorcycle, drop, until it was not totally better, but I had lots of scratches.
Right, yeah.
And so when I brought it back to the shop, the lady was like, you have to pay for the damages and stuff. But the funny thing was she had a credit card reader, but she was renting motorcycles for $1. So I'm like, okay, so she probably had a credit card reader because she had to charge people for like damages. But so it sounds like as though I deserved it, right? I think I partly deserved it, but when I asked my friends who were like avid motorcyclists and locals, they all told me the same thing, and they told me that it should have cost like $100 because with $600 they could have bought a new motorcycle.
Yeah, that's what I thought actually when I read it. Yeah.
There wasn't like major damage, right?
Yeah,
but she held onto my passport as collateral.
Yes.
Just ran from Thailand. So
one thing we normally do is we don't give passport, we give the driving license.
Yeah.
So if anything happens, you can forsake your driving license, which is cheaper.
I mean, the international driving license,
Yeah, you always give your driving license.
Other ID with your face, like, I mean, if you have a library card with your face on it or student card, you can give it. We never part with our passport, so that's one. Yeah. And the other thing is like never operate a heavy machine if you're not trained for it. But I think the lesson learned is not I think other than the $600, it's like, your life is more precious than that $600.
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
I think that's what really matters. So so I was talking about budget earlier, I know we got sidetracked a bit. So my budget, of course, I had to pay for transportation, had to pay for food, transportation, accommodation, and miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is like, basically like entry fees to like whatever I wanted to see.
Yeah.
So for transportation, I was lucky in the sense that many countries I passed through were pretty affordable, especially in Central Asia, Southeast Asia, even Iran. So the only countries that were quite expensive were in Europe and China best. So for food, I cooked myself if it was possible. If not, I would just eat out in like those street side hawkers or something like that, which are very cheap in most of the countries I traveled to. Occasionally, no, in fact not occasionally, frequently my hosts cook for me. And I was very touched by that gesture. For accommodation, I used couch surfing a lot. So for many of you who do not know or for people who do not know what couch surfing is, it's basically an online community of travelers and hosts. So people host you for free. So that was where I did most of my stays. It was a homestay / free accommodation / learning journey, I would say, because you get to make new friends. You get to learn the local way of life, literally by staying with a local, and all of that for free. So, it's like killing many birds with one stone. And then for transportation, sometimes it was cheap, then I took a bus or something. But if it wasn't, then I hitchhiked a lot. Because hitchhiking is free. Just stand by the side of the road, put out a thumb, carry a sign, and, hopefully someone stops for you. So that was free. And the miscellaneous, I tend not to visit tourist hotspots. So, for example, I'll give an example.
Same. Yeah.
I was happy with just seeing like tourist attractions from outside because my travel wasn't just to like tick things off the list, like important places off the list. It was more of like experiencing the local way of life,
journey,
meeting new people. So, for example, I was in Istanbul and I saw Hagia Sophia, that And I was happy with looking at it from outside. Because there were alternatives. There was like the Blue Mosque or the Mosque.
But they are free.
But they were free,
They're free. I was surprised to read that you think you have to pay. It's free,
I had to pay for it. I'm not so sure, but I remember having to pay for it. So I was like, okay, fine.
Maybe at that time, because
It was museum before,
Erdogan changed it to a mosque and then became free.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
So and in Central Asia, Iran, the cities themselves were like living museums. They were old cities from the
Oh my God. So jealous that you get to Iran here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you just enter it, there's no museum, nothing, because the whole city itself is a museum of sorts. So and I didn't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. So in the fun department, like the party department, I spent nothing because I did no partying. Except in Iran, where people were inviting me, which was the irony. It's a Muslim country. Things that we associate with fun, like alcohol, partying, it's all banned there. But I had lots of parties there. People were invited to underground parties and whatnot. So,
Yeah. Okay. So we have some specific question from one person. No, the one woman. No, one of our followers asked exactly how much was our budget for them to go traveling like us. So I think I would safely say maybe like what 30,000 a year.
No, for one
like us,
15,
for
10 to 15
with a car.
With a car.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, you have to budget for traveling like us. I think maybe it's easier to budget the transport, the camper van, and your day-to-day expenses separately. Because for the camper van, we got a 24-year-old classic for how much? 20,000, right?
Yeah, Sing dollar. Yeah.
But it could go as expensive as 50,000 euros, 60,000 euros. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Also.
But you can get cheaper. You can even get. We met Jeff in Morocco. He's a French guy, young chap. He bought his for 5,000 euro, and he went into Morocco and refurbished everything for. I mean, also very, very, So you can go either way. So that's, I think the best is you budget out your vehicle and then your daily expenses, and also
30,000 is a fair sum. It's just you and your car, because you have to buy a car. So probably spend like 15 to 20,000 on the car. The rest you can spend on the food and petrol.
Yeah.
And if you don't travel like thousands and thousands of kilometers, you save on petrol. Spend more time on the place that you go to and get to know the place well.
We learned early on when we started. From Amsterdam, we drove over to UK. We were driving so much that at the end of the day, we do our budget, right? We say like, why are we spending so much and we don't eat out? We don't go to castles like you. Castles, everything is 20 pounds easily. We like, no, we have like a monocular. We see from outside, okay, this castle, and that's it. Take pictures with the selfie stick and that's it. Then after that, we realized that a lot of our budget was for gas. So we cut that and we travel a shorter distance, and then with that we enjoy local more.
Don't change location every night. Spend 2 nights in a place, because you go away there are things in each place that's quite charming that you can get to know better. So
there's a learning curve lah. Then
you know as you drive through experience.
But the whole idea is to take it slow. I think you agree.
What about Ganesh? Do you think if someone to backpack like you, what is the minimum sum they should have before they set out for 1 year?
I don't know. It depends on the person, how much you're willing to sacrifice. So, there are 3 factors in life. And I think at different stages of life, you have 2 of it, but you're missing 1. So the 3 factors are time, energy, and finance or money. So when you're young, before going into the workforce, like me, you have a lot of energy, you have lots of time, all the time in the world, but you don't have finance. You don't really have budget, right? Like you don't really have money. And then once when you're in the working world, you might have time. You might not have time, but you have energy and you have money. And then when you're older, when you're retired, you have all the money in the world, at least. I mean, I hope.
No, enough energy.
But not enough energy. So I personally didn't have a lot of but I still wanted to travel, and so I traveled anyway. And I did a lot of sacrificing. Like, I didn't stay in hotels or even hostels often.
Yeah.
Many times I just pitched a tent, slept inside it. If not, I slept on road when I'm too lazy to pitch my tent, or slept at a railway station, couch surfed a lot. And then, unless absolutely necessary, then I went to a hostel and I stayed.
Actually, you save
So,
a lot of money on
it's possible to bring accommodation to zero.
accommodation and
When it comes to food, I would pay for food, but I've heard travelers who do not pay for food. I might not really agree with that sort of traveling, but you ask if it's possible or not. So I would say it's possible, but do I agree with it? No, because I know people who went to like soup kitchen and going to like religious like temples and churches to get free food from there. It's possible you could live like that.
Yeah.
Then I didn't. So transportation.
You have free food in London.
We have talked about accommodation.
Yeah.
One time only.
Yeah.
Transportation, accommodation. We talked about food and accommodation. Next one is transportation. Traveling between cities. Just hitchhike. Again, then it becomes free. Transportation becomes free. Or if you want, you could, within a city, you could just walk. Or, the city are huge, then again, not really ethical. You could just jump the fare gates, or you could just take a bus.
No, don't advise that.
I did that a few times and I got caught.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not ethical. I don't agree with it, but sometimes, right?
Yeah, understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the three important things for traveling, basically accommodation, transportation, food. As I've already mentioned, might not be the most ethical, might not be the most comfortable, might not be the way that I personally agree with, same as you guys, but it's possible to travel without any money.
Yeah.
There are people.
For hitchhiking, how dangerous it is, and what kind of safety precaution or tips you would give for someone who wants to hitchhike?
So for someone who wants to hitchhike, such a hard question because I'm very oblivious to things like danger and stuff, Yeah. But okay, I did feel like there were instances where I hitchhiked and I was trying to get a lift, and I felt like the people were just super suspicious, and so I declined it. So one of the ways, there are many ways to hitchhike. One of the ways to hitchhike is, there are three ways actually. One is to put up your hand like that by the side of the road, and hope that someone stops for you. And then once when someone stops for you, just ask them if you could hitch a ride with them. The second way is to carry a signboard by the side of the road with your destination on it, and then people will stop if they're heading that way. The third way is to go to a fuel station or gas station and ask people who are refueling their vehicles.
Right.
Personally, I feel like the safest option is to go to a fuel station and ask people over there, because you are, you're actually talking with someone, exchanging words. You get to see the condition of the car. You get to see whether they're drunk or not. You get to see whether they're in a good state of mind. And I think it's a very good safety net. That few words that exchange, that in itself can tell you if it's
it gives you time
if that's a good match or not.
Yeah.
The second most safe, there are only three ways. So the moderate one, or the one in the middle, is actually putting out your hand like that.
Yeah.
And trying to stop people who are driving past.
Right.
Why that? Because, if they stop and you look into their car and you see that the car is like super gross or something suspicious, at least you could ask them where they are heading instead of telling them where you are heading.
Yeah.
So let's say if they say that, let's say if I'm going to KL and they say, they are heading to KL, they're heading to where you're going, but you could say, sorry, I'm going in another direction.
Just decline politely.
That's a good way. Good advice.
The third one is carrying a signpost. That's quite effective actually, because people will, when you're putting out a hand, people have only like a few seconds to actually see, make in their mind, judge if you're a good match, and then stop and ask you. Because you also have to realize that the driver also wants to know whether you're a good match.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you see someone on the road and then they continue driving.
Yeah, for us, we're on the other side. We're in this big camper van, and then especially in Morocco, a lot of people wanted to hitchhike, but we never pick anyone up because for us is, we think of our safety. Yeah, like you say, it's very hard to judge person in a split second. You
And
know,
we have a lot of belongings in the car.
Yeah,
and you always
home,
imagine like if they come out with a knife, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So
it's not like a car, you know.
we didn't take the chance. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a very good tip for hitchhiking to
Yeah.
go petrol station and assess the driver.
And for the driver to
secondly,
assess you as well.
thumbs up, and then you can look at the car and ask them where they are going. I think that's an excellent tip for those who want to hitchhike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's actually just holding up a sign like that. And whole world where you're heading. But so of course, people are more inclined to see, oh, he's heading to like the destination I'm in, to the very same place I'm going, so I'll stop for the. But at the same time, you have to realize that you are pretty much advertising where you're going to everyone. Going.
Yeah.
But have you ever got into a car and then feel unsafe and then want to get out and then you're not sure if the driver will let you out? Have you ever got into that situation?
Almost kidnapped situation.
In the car, because I always feel, I don't know, so many people on the road, right? Yeah.
So my hitchhiking story started off in Amsterdam. I traveled just after junior college. I got robbed in Amsterdam at night. Not everything. I had only like a few euros on me, and I needed to get to Brussels because that's where my friend was. And I had no tickets whatsoever. So I had two options, either taking the train and not paying for the ticket and risk getting kicked out hard in the middle of nowhere, or hitchhiking. So I'm like, okay, I've never hitchhiked before. I was 18 then, just finished A-level, about to go into the army. So I'm like, okay, let's try hitchhiking. And that was my first brush with hitchhiking. So my very next ride, from Brussels I wanted to go to Paris. Not many people were going from Brussels to Paris, or at least not many people stopped for me. So there was this guy in a truck who was traveling from Brussels to a town along the Belgian-French border called Le Mans. And he was like, he and his friend, they were really huge guys, and they were like, okay, come, we'll give you a ride. They seemed a bit fishy, but I was like, okay, beggars can't be choosers, so just go. So they were like, you put your bag behind and you sit in front. So I was like, okay, fine, I put my bag behind in the truck itself, like the huge cargo, like the
the cabin,
And then I sat in the driver's cab, in between these two guys. And one thing they didn't know was that I actually understood French. And this guy let's bring him to places.
Oh gosh.
Let's bring him to places and let's see what he has to offer. And, survival mode kicked in.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, the guy asked me, how was my trip so far? And I was like, my trip wasn't bad. Just that I lost everything that I own, my laptop, my phone, my money. Made it very obvious that,
you have no money.
I had nothing on me. So, there's no kidnapping me if that was your point. That was your goal. No point robbing me if that was your goal. And I think they, the message sort of settled in them, and then they were like, okay, they just dropped me off as they said, instead of, taking me to places, God knows which places they wanted to bring.
Wow.
So that was one hitchhiking incident I felt
unsafe,
which was quite interesting. And so from Le Mans to Paris, I hitchhiked with another group of went to Amsterdam to smoke weed. Okay, so the whole car was smelling, smelled weed. They were clearly drunk, and I was like, oh my god, am I going to die? And just as we reached Paris, right, the outskirts of Paris, at Charles de Gaulle Airport, one of the tires exploded, like boom, exploded, not like flattened, exploded. And I was like, damn, like I did 2 hitchhiking trips on that day, and both,
very shady.
So that was like the most memorable hitchhiking episode, I would say.
I read
the book, you realize that in Central Asia, I did hitchhike with people who, in a 5-seater car, there were like 11 people inside, and I was sitting on a man's lap, and on top of me was another kid. Or, you know, there were people who were drunk and they were like, "Oh, come over to my house, I will host you." And they drove home drunk. I mean, I have to give it to them, okay? In Central Asia, people can get really drunk, but they know how to drive. They drive better drunk than sober.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the questions I want to ask you is, what's it like traveling as an Asian? Do you think it makes any difference traveling as an Asian
Brown person.
Yeah.
I mean, like us for sure. People ask us all the time as women, as Asian, you know. But how is it with you?
For me, it was a wild card, I felt, because it worked either ways. In Asian countries, especially not so much in like Thailand or Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, which are basically overrun by tourists, but so for them it's like, or you know, for them tourists are normal. But in China, for example, I felt like they were more interested in white tourists or white travelers or white foreigners than were in Asian travelers.
Right.
And so, you know, it just sometimes, you know, you could go to a couch surfing meeting or you could be hosted by a couch surfing host who was hosting another white person, and you could tell that, you know, more attention was spent on them than on me because I'm just while that other person came from another continent, right? And another stereotype I think a lot of people have of Asians, and sometimes Asians have of one another, is that we are very meek. We don't fight back. So I was way more prone to like scams, to like people changing their words than the average white traveler. You know, I felt like, because, you know, they know that with a white traveler, with a male, or even with a female, it's in the culture to like, you know, stand your ground, fight for your rights. Whereas in Asia, it's more of like you've been taught from young, don't make a scene out of something big.
Right.
So a lot of people, I felt, took advantage of me like that, thinking that I wouldn't fight back. But boy, they were so wrong. And racism and stuff, like, you know, people asking you questions that were weird, like, "Oh, you're Chinese, do you eat cat?" I wouldn't say that's racism, I would just say they didn't know.
Ignorance.
Ignorance, that's the word. And then you talk about racism, especially in Eastern Europe, where people thought I was Afghan. And they refused to stop for me. Some people, when I was hitchhiking, some people just drove past, spit in my face. Some people told me, "Go back home, refugee." So, it runs
But
like...
do you think there are advantages traveling as an Asian?
Absolutely. I think, so I said that people think that Asians don't fight back. Asians are meek. Asians are submissive, you could say. Which has its drawbacks, which I've just mentioned. But there are also advantages to it, such as people tend to trust you easier. People tend to think that you're harmless, that you won't steal, that you won't, that you mean only good, and stuff like that.
Then you can help them with their computers, right?
That one, because I cannot help them with their computers, you guys know.
Otherwise we won't be here on the live IG. We're supposed to do a video on
Zoom or something.
Somehow land up here.
Not even Unheard lah.
We're supposed to do like a video
360
call and a record it.
already.
Unfortunately, none of us know how to like record it.
Between a 50-year-old auntie and a 20-year-old young man, not much difference.
How to record, so we end up on live IG.
Sort of.
Okay, what would you say?
Women and as Asians, both of you as women and as Asians, how did like,
40 minutes more.
how would you say your traveling differed from like the stereotypical or the quintessential white backpacker?
It's super different. Firstly, we only met 2 other Asian couples in the whole of our 2 years. We've never met anyone from Singapore or this part of Far East, the Far East, traveling like we did.
The way we did,
and of course it's different. Like in the I call it mainland Europe, I think the racism, I think we should call it as it is. The racism towards Susie is even more apparent than me, than a brown person. Because I think the sentiments against Chinese, and she would think that she's just from PRC and all that.
Yeah, when I first arrived in, I think it was Spain, people from far were called Chino, Chino. And
Chino,
then
yeah.
even in Morocco, Chino, Chino, always Chino. And then after COVID, it's like, Corona, Corona.
Yeah.
They call me Corona.
Yeah. Always, I notice it's directed at her. Like even in Europe, when we want to ask for hot water at a cafe, whatever, I would be the one asking because they will not entertain her.
I'm PRC, I'm Chinese, I'm rich, so they won't give me anything I want. This one ask anything they give because maybe they think she's a Roma gypsy, dark brown skin. They just give her. So PRC, you go by yourself. So,
and I think it's for me also, it's quite amazing to watch how people react towards her. Like let's say when we go to shopping center, mall or street, whatever, I would walk one or two steps behind her, and I would see people reaction, towards her, always approaching her to buy things and all that. And then when I step in, they will be like, oh, a little taken aback. But I do believe in your demeanor, in your walk, in your talk, you shouldn't act like a victim. Mm-hmm. That is important.
Confident.
Be confident. Straighten up your shoulders, your back, and
if you're entitled to be there, like any other tourist. But I think generally for fellow travelers, they are quite fascinated to see, number one, two ladies traveling on their own, and number two, Asians.
Yeah.
So most are very friendly and fascinated to see us, and like we're the first. Very few ladies traveling on their own, and no Asians traveling this way. And all the way from Singapore, we are the first to be in most campsites in Morocco.
I think in all of the campsites.
Yeah, even in Europe, they always say, oh, you're the first Singaporeans to check in here. So it's kind of unusual, unique. They're quite happy to add Singapore to their list of nationals who have ever been to their campsite.
And then we do notice that when we say we're from Singapore, right, they be like, oh, Singapore have all this reputation of being.
Singapore has a good reputation, so people think, okay, you're rich, it's a nice country, nice people, something like that. So it helps.
But on the other hand, sometimes we don't say that we are from Singapore because, like you say, it's open to scammers. Oh, Singapore, you rich, you got money. Everything pay more.
You realize we're on budget too. I always say, we're not that crazy rich Asians, okay? You see those that movie, we're not those people.
Yeah, if we are rich, we won't travel
like... Okay, not so poor, but,
Yeah, but, you have to use a lot of intuition and experience and to trust your gut feel. I mean, that's important. And then, like, having lived in Singapore for so long, we let our gut down. Like, we go to hawker center, put the phone just on the table and we can just go off. But no, we never do that ever anywhere.
Like, totally fine if you just leave your phone and go buy something
at
the table or put your bag there. No one's going to touch it. You don't scared.
Like,
leave your bicycle there and go into the shop and come out. But I live in, like, even in Canada, which is like a first world country, a rich country, there's so much petty theft that happens that I'm just like, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, did you know that maybe we travel in a motorhome, right? Like all the people that advise us, all the warnings are at major cities in Europe, like Barcelona, Paris, London. She got nicked in Oxford.
Yeah, Oxford.
Somebody opened a backpack and luckily the bag inside was just tissue paper, A toothpick, and that was in Oxford, right? And then like in Morocco, we had no such incident at all.
In the outskirts, usually it's very safe.
Yeah.
Even we leave our camping car door open, go outside, do things. Sleep sometimes, nap with the door open is fine. But not in the cities.
Not in the cities. No. Major red flag in big cities.
I felt like, people, Russia and Kazakhstan, not Afghanistan, but Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, have this reputation of being very dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I felt safer in those places than I was in Europe.
Let's watch
Yes, agree. Totally
Our
agree.
Korean friends travel from Korea to Mongolia, Russia, all the way to Europe. No problem, very safe. They feel very safe in Russia. But when they reach France, they got robbed.
Yeah, for first time.
So because they said they let their guards down.
Yeah.
They travel all through Asia, Mongolia, all very safe. So they let their guards down. So when they were in France, they, didn't take extra safety precautions. So
there's
someone asked how are you so rich
bromination.
to travel. So maybe later you can check back to our initial chat. But basically, we work very hard. Ganesh here work, side job, save money. We've been working many years.
Allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we save. We work hard. We save the money to travel.
And the thing is, right? Living in Singapore, you don't notice that everything you spend, everything that you need costs money. So even like your phone, you are pressured by whatever to change every year. And then, you don't think about even a hawker center we find is super expensive right now after coming from Europe.
So it's quite expensive. So
the thing is, right, you just have to be petty and very stringent with your expenditure.
Not petty lah.
No lah,
petty. Budget conscious.
Okay lah, budget conscious lah.
Yeah, I agree with that, I have friends who ask me, how come you're so rich to travel? And then there are friends who eat out all 3 meals and every weekend will eat every meal at a restaurant.
And you buy beer and like Singapore is super expensive. Like
I know.
Like you say you have to give something up and you have to give that up.
But
and when we travel we don't eat out except when we were in Morocco and Turkey because it's so freaking cheap. Right? Then we treat ourselves. Other than that, no. And I think we first noticed when we were in Scotland. We arrived in Scotland and we had lunch with our friends there. And after that, the bill was like £50 for the lunch. And we were like, oh my God, £50 can have groceries for 1 week, And we were like, no. No more eating out. And we didn't.
Yeah.
So that requires a lot of restraint and it will build your discipline. But you just have to do that. So anyone who says, why are you so rich?
No.
And I think you have to ask yourself, why aren't you rich?
No, someone just mentioned like from here to Europe costs 1,000. I like to ask, what is your expenses in Singapore?
Yeah.
I think in Singapore you need at least $1,000 to live in Singapore a month. You can actually live for $600 in Morocco. Almost equivalent in Turkey. The rent for an apartment is $300. You have a very nice apartment. Another $300 you can spend on food. So $600 for you. And likewise in Turkey.
But for example, if you want to travel and you think of Norway, and then you have to adjust your expectation lah. So I think you don't talk about I want to travel, I want to go Paris, I want to go Norway, I want to go Iceland, and then like
basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question here, and someone asked, how is it like traveling with someone? Okay, how is it like traveling? What's the difference between traveling solo and traveling with a companion? So maybe you can answer the companion part, and I will give my 2 cents on the solo part.
Traveling together with a companion
is tough.
For me, it's a pleasure because I don't like to be alone. I don't like to dine alone. It's like I talk to myself. Whereas having a companion, I have someone to moan at. I have someone to talk to, someone to give my opinion to. I see something, I can say something and she'll react and we can discuss. So I love that. But then, of course, you must travel with the right companion, not someone that you will fight and argue every day. We do fight occasionally.
Companion.
How do you choose? I think for a start, you need to go for small holidays together and see that you get along. You don't quarrel, you don't argue during that few short holidays. Then you can explore from there that person is a good traveling companion for you.
It's like they say, a travel can make or break a relationship, and that is any kind of relationship. It doesn't matter if you're family, with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or with your even just friends. I mean, I've so-called broken up with my friends after travel because my ex-colleague friend keep asking for, oh, do you have this, do you have that, along our travel. I got so pissed. I mean, it's like, if you think you need shampoo, you bring shampoo lah. Don't keep asking me lah, So those are little things that you find whether you can, your pet peeve or whatever not. So you have to have trials.
Also, whether you have the same interest. Like, for example, you go traveling and she want to see this, I want to see that. And then every time argue which is to go. And then, you don't quite gel. Whereas, like, for us, if we go together, we both want to see that thing. You probably have common interests. Like, we both want to swim. We both like to hike and we don't like to walk too much.
Oh,
I like to walk a little bit more than her. But
I like to cycle. She doesn't.
Give
so
and
much.
take a little. If you can do that, you're good.
Also, I mean, you don't have to agree on everything. Like, she likes to hike, and at times I don't, but I'll do it because she likes it. A lot of give and take, and then of course you argue, but the difference initially was that she would say, like, if our relationship is so good, we don't argue at all. But to me, it's like, there will be arguments, and you just have to let me fume, let me rant, and that's over. Then after that, I go to the next as well, because that's how I am. And as a traveling partner, you just have to take the person as they are, like that, and you just deal with that. You cannot be like, like they say, everything is small stuff,
So how about traveling solo?
Traveling solo is liberating because basically you are
liberating.
Bullshit. But you also have to realize that you're your own navigator, your own planner, your own cook, your own secretary, your own treasurer, and
your own cheerleader.
Yeah, basically everything. Basically, you're doing everything. And you talked about the lonely part. I felt like when I was traveling, I met a lot of people, but ultimately I felt alone. Ultimately, I was alone. Anything were to happen, it's just me who has to deal with it. If anything were to, and ultimately it was just me who was doing it. So for me, it did feel I did feel lonely at times. I did feel like it would be nice to have someone beside me, but at the same time, there were the advantages where I didn't put up with other people. I got angry with. I never got angry during my trip unless if I got scammed or if I wanted to do something or see something or experience something and I couldn't. But when it comes to interpersonal relationships, if I didn't really get along well with someone, I just could say bye because it's not like this partner, and then I'm literally not literally but literally handcuffed to another soul, and I have to sit and whatnot.
One thing, you really have to like that person.
Yeah, you really have to like that person.
You really have to like. I mean, love that person is one thing, but you have to like that person is another. And then I must say that traveling together, because in my younger days, I solo travel all the time. But traveling together, it gives me a bit more push to do things that I would not have done. Like, I think I would have the opportunity to have travel in a vehicle on my own, yes, but I've never thought of doing it. Because like you, I'm scared of what if the vehicle break down, I don't know what to do. What if the money runs out, I got no backup, cannot call father, mother, I don't have that luxury. So I didn't get to do it until we met, and we just inspire each other, push each other to do this, that. It's
okay. I want to ask Ganesh, what is to you the scariest incident or moment
we cannot
throughout
go
your
final,
trip?
we don't
The
have the
scariest
luxury.
one to you?
He's trying to imply that he's
Scariest. Okay, there was there's two types of scary. One is you experience it live as it happens, and the second one is it might not seem scary when you're in that situation, but once when you think about it in hindsight, you're like, damn, that was actually damn scary. So the one which was really scary, and I really felt it as I was in that situation, was at the Great Wall of China. So the Great Wall of China, I know a lot of us have just seen a very manicured, a very well-maintained part of the wall, right?
Break. It's here. It's in the book. If anyone wants to read it,
listen from him.
Yeah, I know.
It's thousands of kilometers long, and they're not going to maintain every part of it. Only like 20 kilometers is maintained. I went to a section which was I think the last time someone actually went there or touched it or maintained it was when it was constructed like 500 years ago.
Oh, wow.
There were shrubs growing, the wall already sort of collapsed and stuff like that. And it was like, in my mind, I thought winter was just December. I didn't know that February was the coldest month. And you know how cold Beijing can get, right? And how cold northern China can get, because by that time I was way outside the city. So it dropped like minus 25, including the wind effect. And because the wall is usually on the top of hills, you're at altitude with strong winds, and it's already very cold, and plus it was snowing. So it was like, basically it was super cold. I underestimated the cold. And when I was climbing the wall, because the wall was in such a decrepit state, when I was climbing it with all four limbs, at times when I climbed onto a brick and I tried to pull my weight onto it, the brick just fell. Or the brick fell. And I was like, damn, if I wasn't careful with how I climbed, I could very easily have just, put all the weight onto like a single limb, which was on a very loose piece of brick, and just fall like that. And it wasn't like one of those small climbs, okay? It was like a 6th, 7th floor climb, sort of, almost vertical climb on bricks that were falling as I started to climb up.
Yeah.
So that was pretty scary. And then that very night, right, it was so cold. I was in my tent. I made a fire on my own, but I realized that the fire itself wasn't enough. Or the fire itself wasn't enough, but it was like, I had to go into the cold to collect more wood. It wasn't worth the fire, it wasn't worth like going into the cold just to I keep myself warm. Might as well just stay in the tent. So I brought everything I had with me. So I just wore like 5 layers of socks and 3 layers of shirt on top of a jacket, covered my head with what's it called, with a beanie, and it was still super cold. I could still feel it. So I couldn't sleep. I was really hungry. I had like 2 chocolate bars on me. I finished both of them within the first hour of setting up tent. I brought like two 1 liter bottles of water. Super thirsty. Opened it. Tried to drink. Couldn't, because it had frozen too. So I was like, damn. And then I could hear like animals around me. Who knows if, they could have harmed me in any ways. My phone battery, so cold that my phone gave up 5. So even if I needed, no one could call me. Overall, it was a pretty, I wouldn't say it was a horrible situation, because I enjoyed it. But it was a pretty, how would I say? It was a
scary moment, right? It could have gone the other way.
I got myself on the line, where I got to put myself I got to test my boundaries here and there. But what did I get in return? I literally got to stay at one of the 7 wonders of the world for free. When I woke up, all I had was miles and miles of this abandoned part of the Great Wall of China on either side, and I had this entire, and as far as the eyes could see, I was the only human being there. So
Scared not.
in itself was worth it.
Cheap
Was I scared? I told myself that am I going to make it alive or not? I asked myself, am I going to make it alive?
Have you read the book Into the Wild?
No. What is it about?
You should, by Christopher McCandless. He's a young man after college. I think he was US. After college, he abandoned everything, all this consumerism, blah, blah, blah. He went on his own journey into Alaska.
He died, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he died.
Yeah, he died. But, yeah, you should read it. I would highly recommend it. But would you do anything different? Would you do it again?
Certainly, I will do it again. Without a doubt, I'll do it again. No hesitations whatsoever, I'll do it again.
Right.
And other thing which was scary, but I sort of didn't like. I didn't feel it was scary at that time. Was when I was in Turkmenistan, I was followed by the secret police. So, Turkmenistan is like North Korea, ruled by a crazy dictator who has a huge cult of personality. So he built golden statues of himself across the entire country. The only difference between North Korea is that Turkmenistan has money because it has lots of natural gas. But otherwise, they're pretty much the same. And all tourists going into Turkmenistan, like North Korea, need to have a guide. But I didn't have a guide because I was on this special visa called the transit visa. So I was traveling from Uzbekistan to Iran via Turkmenistan. I was given 5 days to pass through the country. And when I was in Ashgabat, the capital, it's this huge capital that's white. Everything's white and gold, but no one lives there. It's a capital built for the dictator because the dictator wanted it to be all white and gold, but he didn't want people to live there because he said that people would dirty it.
Bangkok is ready.
So I was very fascinated by the architecture of Ashgabat and stuff. And I'm going around taking photos of stuff and things. And little did I know, a group of men, I was in this park for like 2 hours, and a group of men were in that same park, very well dressed. Some of them sitting there, some of them standing in the middle of the road, a large road. I mean, there was no car, no traffic on the road anyway.
Yeah.
So, and all they did was look at me.
Yeah.
So after that, I took a city bus to go to another part of the city, and they all hopped into a car and they followed that bus. And then I went to a restaurant to eat at a restaurant in a mall.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, they sat opposite me and ate at the same restaurant. I was like, you guys are following me.
Did you talk to them?
I could have, but so I didn't know what was that. I knew something was happening. I didn't know what was that. So I went back to my couchsurfing host house, and I asked my couchsurfing host, I told him what happened. I asked him, what is that all about? And he was like, oh, that's the secret police that followed you. He was an American teaching English at an international school in Ashgabat. And then he brought me to the kitchen and he was like, look outside the window. What do you see? I'm like, there's nothing. And he's like, do you see in the distance, there's a Mercedes Benz? I'm like, there are two. And then he was like, yeah, usually there's just one because they keep an eye on me, on the host.
Oh, no.
Now there are two foreigners in our house. Now they have two Mercedes Benzes looking, surveilling us. So I'm like, wow, okay.
Wow, feel important.
Looking back and thinking about it, because they could have done something. They could have
They could have brought him in for interrogation.
Yeah.
They could have disappeared,
You never know. Yeah. Looking
But
back,
but I think also all these things, scary moments. You just have to rely on yourself to do.
Do you have any safety net or security any one time, for example, if you were to disappear, someone would know where you are?
I think my friends and parents would be the first to get have a hint that something went horribly wrong, because and I went to North Korea and Turkmenistan. So North Korea for 5 days, Turkmenistan for 5 days, had no internet, right? So I didn't update my stories, and I was updating pretty much every day. So I had people who asked me are you okay? Because I've not.
So you update either your friends or family every day.
I even post every day. I post on Instagram story telling people what I did, what I saw, what I did.
Right.
That's what we do also. Yeah.
So there was some days when I was in North Korea, Iran, or Turkmenistan, where there was no internet. So I didn't update it, and I had people whom I've never met in my life, followers, who asked me
are you okay?
Did anything?
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't have anything. I didn't update.
Yeah.
So that was a safety net in itself too.
Yes, that's
but
good.
was that enough of a safety net? That's another question, because
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What else want to ask you is,
how about you?
Would you change anything?
Would you both change anything? Because
Yeah, a
honestly,
little
that's a
bit
very
here and there.
hard question. So I need time to think while you guys speak.
What would you change anything on our travel?
I would somewhat. I wish we could have gone a little bit slower in some places. Um, I know,
Very
and
little, very little.
very little
We're very
lah.
happy with what we did.
Yeah.
I think we're very little that we could have changed the routes that you have to do, the timing and all
Yeah.
that. So we did what we did because we just have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like our initial plan is to just travel for 1 year. We extended it because of COVID, and then after that, our plan B was to drive all the way into Russia, China, Laos, back into Malaysia at least, because motorhomes are not allowed in Singapore. And that also changed. And we couldn't cross a few borders, so our plans changed again. But we wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, those
Anything
things are
else?
beyond our
Yeah,
control.
those are yeah.
We're happy how things turn out.
Yeah, and the fact that we really learned to live in the moment.
Yeah.
Like at one point, we were going to cross Turkey through Bulgaria back to Greece, and knowing that the border was very stringent with COVID and all that, blah blah blah, and our powerful red passport is no longer powerful because the COVID instructions is king. So we were like, whatever happens, we make sure we have a good breakfast. We tap out a bit of the what we like from Turkey, and we just go ahead and
even in Morocco, like I can't remember what was it like we wanted to do, and our friends were like, "What's the worst could happen? You end up in prison. You have an exciting story to tell, and you can write a book about it."
That's what I told myself. As long as I'm it's fine. Like, ultimately that's the most important.
Yeah.
So per se, that have changed anything? I don't know. Like the good and the bad. Like I know most people will be like, oh, let's just have the good and leave out the bad. But I felt like the good and the bad made this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find personally perfect. And I wouldn't have changed anything. Even though I was scammed, if I could change anything, I would have let it.
Ride the motorbike.
Yeah, I would have still gone to motorbike. I would have still done things.
You would have. Okay.
Maybe
Okay.
I would have been slower with my trip, like you guys.
Yeah.
But even then, 9 months I think was
Yeah.
was long enough.
Whatever it's amazing adventure trip that we both did, and I wish Singaporeans especially are not so afraid. Get over the fear, because we are always like scared, right? We have to be prepared. I mean, frankly, between you and us, because our life experience, our age, I think we are more prepared than you. And you saying that you won't change a thing. If I mean, being me, and now I will change a lot of things the way you travel, mainly because it's safety. You could have lost your life so many times, but you didn't.
So what do you think about my trip?
I wouldn't ride a motorbike because I'm a rider. I know how difficult it is, and it's like there's a reason why they ask you to take licenses to operate heavy machines. That's one, and like camping in the snow, -20. Come on, dude.
we actually went on this camel trip in Sahara Desert, Mexico. And the people and camels carrying our stuff, and we have like 10 layers of blanket.
Yeah.
But
We were still so cold.
Okay, I won't do that again. One time experience, and no regret. But it's so cold. Oh, no.
But you see, the difference is we are older. We have lesser tolerance for a lot of stuff. But the youngsters being you, it's like I can conquer the world, and you did in so many ways, and that requires a lot of courage. And and I was saying, like other Singaporeans, right, be our age or your age, just get over the fear of having not too much money. You don't have this, you don't have that. You just have to do it, lah.
Just do it.
You know, I mean,
Most
like
of
people
them
say,
who joined us, right? Like just out there, like I know some people just joined us midway. So we did cover things about like accommodation, budgeting, you know, how we travel and why we chose like that. So I personally choose to Canada without taking flights, just by land and then crossing the Atlantic on a cargo ship. Norah and Susie, they traveled across Europe and North Africa on a camper van for 2 years. So so if you want to know, you know, anything finance related, budget, why you choose to travel like that, some personal interesting stories that we have not told anywhere, do rewind, do watch this video and rewind it. Okay?
Yeah.
So was there something that you wanted to say? I'm so sorry to interject.
I don't know.
I think to wrap up, what would your any last word for fellow Singaporean who wants to do what you do? What would your advice be, or any last word for them?
Your kind of traveling.
My kind of traveling. First of all, I know a lot of us are very afraid of like people are going to kidnap you. But honestly, like most people have like a life. Most people have.
There are better things to do.
No, you know, those things that the whole world is out there to conspire. In fact, more people are out there, you know, to help you than anything else.
Sorry to interject. I think we have to think that we are not that special that people want to kidnap us, you know. Yeah, just like any other,
I mean, I wish I was. I was great. Like some special abilities such that people would want to kidnap me, but unfortunately, I'm like super average every sense of the word. Secondly, you know, one of the things that a lot of Singaporeans ask me is, why travel? Like, you know, you could start working, you could start making a family, you know, having a family, finding jobs, working and whatnot, like basically settling down life. And I think this is where your priorities in life ultimately comes to play. I don't want to tell you how you should live your life for those who are watching, and at the same time, you know, I hope that you understand where I'm coming from. For me, I would have that 9-10 months free anyway, because school only started in September 2019. I ORD finished my national service in October.
Time's up.
In November 2018, so I had like 10 months. So either way, I had a lot of free time, and I decided to, you know, travel because I already worked and, you know, already slogged in the army. So it didn't make sense to like slog after slogging the army. But, you know, so why I encourage people to travel when they're young, especially university, or take a gap year, be it between university, you know, whatever before university or after your tertiary education, wherever you graduated from. And that's because once when life gets in the way, it's very hard to stop everything to go and travel, to go do long term.
You might wait until you're 50.
You have to back me up on that, because here I'm speaking, you know, I have no experience, I'm still studying. So.
No, I mean it's true. I mean, so like for us, we focus on what.
Sometimes we wish that we did this 20 years ago or when we're younger, because there's so much more things that we can do because you're younger, you got more energy. The activities you undertook is different, and I would encourage anyone who wants to do it because it will be different. Traveling when you're younger and traveling when you're older. It's also a lifetime experiences. You will learn many things and you will mature in different ways. It's a very, very good head start for you when you head on to your career later.
I would say the travel experience when you're 20 and against when you're 50 are totally different.
It will stand you in good states for your career. I'm very, very sure. You know, you will work for the rest of your life. But a trip like this, you may not get another chance. When you're older, you have family commitments, you got other commitments. So do it while you can.
Okay, one shout out is for those who just joined or want to review our video. It will be up on our IG, and I will also put it up on our YouTube channel, and subscribe. So YouTube channel, Two Traveling Aunties. We will put it there, and please follow
And if you want to read
the
more
long direction.
details, you can
It's amazing.
buy the book. It's
Buy
a
the
good read.
book, or you can
I
go to the
finished
library.
reading it
Amazon.
yesterday. Excellent. Yeah, on Amazon you can buy it. It's a
Or you
good
can
read.
just message me and I will, if you
Yeah, message Ganesh.
I will mail
Yeah.
over to you. I'll tell you how to pay it over to you. If not, you can get it at NLB, or you can, outside of Singapore, you can get it on Amazon. So if you have
I borrowed it from the library, so you can borrow it from the library.
Yeah, and then and we will tell you when our book is finished, if it gets done at all.
Oh yeah, so the
chapter
traveling
one.
aunties are actually writing a book. Actually, they already have a book of sorts, right? That
Yeah.
Maybe you want to.
Oh, this one. Okay, show the book. This one.
Oh, that one. That one is different.
Okay, this is for our own pleasure. But this is not like our first project. It is a picture book, a collection of some of our travel.
It's just our personal album.
Yeah, and then it has okay, I don't know what you say. Yeah,
It's a Polar step. There's an app that you can actually jot down all your travel, and it collects all the.
Maybe. By the way, this is like a picture book. You know, like when you get married and then there's a wedding album, right? This is equivalent to our wedding album, But this is like our first project of our travel in pictures, photos. So hopefully we'll do something of this sort. But we are also writing a book on our travel. I mean, we are not natural writers like
the
you.
book will come out, but not anytime soon.
So do you guys have any questions regarding like books or publishing in Singapore in general?
I think I asked you quite a few already, so I have a fair idea now. So now it's just wrapping up chapter 1 so we can write to publishers. If any publishers out there, please contact us.
Publishers or editors who can help us.
But otherwise, we'll go Amazon way.
Yeah. And I mean, with your input, and this is where the young teach the old, We have a lot of input from Ganesh, from yourself, very, very, very good. Because, like sometimes we overthink things. We want it to be perfect, this and that. But, like you just have to go and barrel through. And,
Right.
Like who cares? So yeah.
Got any other questions?
When are you coming back for a visit?
Because right now my school exam, I don't know, they are having like problem scheduling it. So if I was supposed to come back in mid-December and then go back to Canada again and start February, beginning February. But in the end, I decided that, because now they've moved back the exams to start January. So I'm like, okay, fine, if I'm coming back to Singapore just for 2 weeks, doesn't make sense.
I'm very sure we will meet because we have a PAM plan. So either we meet in Singapore or we will meet in Canada or maybe somewhere in between
the world. Any last words, Sam? Any last words for our
before we wrap up?
What sort of last words?
Just reviews and watch this video on live
Just watch this video again. If you are subscribed to the.
Any questions?
Any more questions? Can always message
on
us.
YouTube. Yeah, if you have any questions traveling related, you can either message me or message her. Don't worry, whatever the question is, don't be embarrassed. We are going to keep it confidential, and we are also going to try our best to answer it. And also if you want to get my book, you can get it through, just message me, or you can get it, you can read it for free at NLB, or you can get it on Amazon. So whatever works for you. And and as I said again, age is just a number. If there's a will, you can travel. I mean, if there's a will to travel, you will travel. You should travel. Unless it's something like really like out of your control, like COVID stops you from traveling or leaving. Other than that,
God, we traveled through COVID.
You still can travel. If there's a will, there's a way.
COVID, my timing was good. I came to Canada and then
us too.
COVID.
Did you know that? Yeah. Did you know that if we have waited for our original plan, which was to travel in March 2020, we would have not done this at all.
Yeah.
We started earlier in September. So it's like it's very cliche, but you just need to do it. Money will never be enough. The time will never be perfect. You have to. Yeah.
It's not a fairy tale. It's like a life, a real life.
No, it's better than fairy tale. I mean, it's like even at 50 years old, we are still in awe of so many things to experience. All right, so shall we wrap up? And maybe we can do this again sometime. If anyone,
maybe on
it's
Facebook,
so fun.
Facebook.
Yeah, let's do this. Sure, let's do this more often. So, I mean, there are now like a few people live. So if they want to ask us any questions, I mean, go ahead.
Message us.
Yeah, before we get off air.
Okay. So talk to you again.
No questions from anyone?
Yeah.
No question.
Any question? Not. All right.
Okay.
All right. Au revoir.
Ciao,
Bonsoir.
What is good night in French?
Bonne nuit.
Oh, bonne nuit. We forgot. We were like, guten Nacht. Oh no, that's German.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you again.
Good to speak to you, and we'll talk
All
again.
right. Bye, everyone. Catch us on our IG and also on our YouTube channel.
To Traveling Auntie.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Now, how do we end this?